Welcome back to the Coach Dad podcast, where we talk faith, family, and the mindset it takes to raise champions on and off the field. I'm your host, Mama Rushhh, and I'm glad you're here. Hi, Coach Dad.
How goes it?
How goes it? What happened this week? Let's get
Well,
caught up.
we had a solid week. My son David had a big game, had 2 touchdowns and 4 catches, and
It was a big game for him, wasn't it?
yeah. He is really starting to get his recruitment picked up, and it reminds me of what we're going to get into tonight when we start talking about running your own race.
Right.
The patience that it took for him just to keep grinding, even though there was people around him getting offers and getting looked at, and we were going to different camps, and he still hadn't been offered yet. I told him, just stay patient.
Yep.
You can't look at somebody else's bowl.
Right.
As we talked about in the previous episode, don't let your ice cream melt looking at somebody else's.
Right. Yeah, what's for you is for you. I think that's an important lesson for our kiddos. Something I'm grateful for. Okay, well, let's get into this. If you're good, but I'm just going to go right into the first question here.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach, help us diagnose comparison in real life. We just mentioned David and his recruiting process, and people around him getting offers and him not. What are the early warning signs that I've started running someone else's race, so to speak? On the field or at school or in my parenting.
Well, the first thing that creeps in is you start feeling inadequate, like somehow you're not where you're supposed to be. Somehow your kid is not as far along as he's supposed to be. And now you begin to pressure the situation, trying to force it, trying to force coaches, trying to force, your child, yourself, whatever the situation is. And what happens is doubt begins to creep in.
Right.
And you begin to doubt whether or not, you are what you think you are, or you are purpose to do whatever it is, but you're simply on your own track. And so you've heard me say over and over again, the fastest way to lose the race is to run somebody else's.
Right.
Just like in track, Michelle just needs to be patient with her form and the way she runs it, and then it works out in the end. But the moment she starts striding out like the girl next to her, or trying to do choppy steps like the girl next to her, then she's completely out of her race and she's running somebody else's race.
That's a really good analogy. It kind of makes me think about, like, when your child, for example, they see others in their cohort that appear to be further along. As a parent, you wonder, something wrong? Like, did we not do something? It makes you start to have doubt. And I think, how do you talk to a parent that is experiencing that? That's important.
Well, one of the things that's interesting about that is there is doubt that creeps in, but there's also, in this comparison game, a little shame, a little embarrassment, because somehow my kid isn't measuring up to that kid when my kid is on his own track.
It's a natural thing to do.
Natural thing in your own life. When
Absolutely.
you see people getting promoted, or you see, someone get a new car, or somebody buying a house, and you think to yourself, oh man, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why
I want to
don't
be able
I
to
have
do
that?
Exactly.
You're on your own track.
I like the fact that we're touching on this, though,
Mhm.
because let's just have a real conversation about it.
Yeah.
You don't want to compare yourself to others. No, you don't want to compare your walk to somebody else's
But we do it
walk.
all the time.
But we do it all the time. And it's like, okay, number one, that's natural. So don't beat yourself up about it.
Right.
And number two, your child's walk, that's their walk. That doesn't mean, like, nothing can impede what God has for your child.
Right.
So if they're, they got to be in the oven for an extra 20 minutes, that doesn't matter.
Right. But it also applies for your own life. You're exactly where you're supposed to be today.
Exactly.
We'll worry about tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds like Bible.
Yes.
I love
But
it.
what good is worrying about it going to do other than stress you out?
I get that.
Other than give you anxiety, and now somehow you're a failure, or kid's a failure. And what happens is, as parents, and I see it all the time and have been there in a previous time, where you're now putting undue pressure on your kid because you're looking at somebody else's race, thinking that they should be there when they're right where they're supposed to be.
Sounds like you've been through this.
Been through this, done that, got the t-shirt and the coffee mug.
Well, I feel like one thing that helps me get through that is cheering for other people's kids.
Mhm,
When I'm cheering and celebrating with other people, it changes a dynamic for me.
mhm.
It makes me feel like I'm gonna celebrate with you, and that gives me encouragement for me in my situation.
But what we often lack is perspective.
I agree with that.
And, again, looking at somebody else's race, somebody else's plate, we lack the perspective of just how much growth has taken place on ours and how much development still needs to happen. And your kid or yourself or whatever the situation is may not be ready to be on that level.
I think this is actually perfect timing. As I was reviewing our notes for the podcast today, you gave a list that I really, really love. Shouldering hardship without it feeling like drudgery, enduring a process without folding, calm in crisis, steady under pressure, and the buffalo move, walking into the storm. Now, please unpack each one of these with a simple drill or a family rule that builds
Oh
around it.
man, there is no simple drill. There is no easy way. There is no quick fix. And this is part of what I was talking about earlier. Just a part of you is not ready to go into this success, to be at this level where you think you want to be right now. Um, these pieces have to happen. Being able to endure hardship or go through go through the drudgery of training and preparation and giving everything, that requires a level of sacrifice you don't just walk in the door with.
Right.
You got to learn that. And in order to be great and to get to that next level, we talked about in the previous episode, you got to fall in love with that process. But even that's a process. And you can't be upset with your kid because they don't have it overnight. Can't be upset with yourself because you don't have it overnight.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And you're developing these things. That's why you're going through these hardships so you can learn the things that you need to learn. So, as we talk about enduring hardship or enduring a process without folding, keeping calm in crisis, steady under pressure, or being like the buffalo walking into the storm, all those are things that you learn through suffering, that you learn along the way. And it says in the Bible, it says even Jesus learned obedience through suffering,
Mm.
through what it was like to be in this body, to understand the things that you have to learn through process.
So basically, my takeaway from that is when you're going through hardship or suffering, as you
Mhm.
said, it's not an indication of failure. It's not an indication of shortcoming.
Yeah,
It's simply part of the process.
correct.
I really appreciate that.
But these are indicators that you are where you're supposed to be. The fact that you are learning these processes, these are all tools necessary to take you through to the next level. And so when I know our kids are ready, is when able to endure hardship, when they don't see the process as laborious, as too much, when they can keep calm in crisis. It's almost like we talked about in the previous one, the silversmith.
The silversmith.
Yes. How does he know the silver's ready when he can see his reflection in it?
That's so deep,
Yeah.
literally. So the next question that I have in my notes, actually, it refers to Matthew 26. Peter swings a sword and Jesus says, "Put it away." He could have called an army of angels, but he chose restraint. And Matthew 5:5 says, "The meek inherit the earth."
Yes.
So, coach, how does a young athlete become dangerous, skilled, strong, competitive, while bridling emotions and ego.
So, one of the things that we talk about all throughout sports, all throughout life, oh, so and so has such humility.
Mm,
But what we often mistake is cowardice for humility.
okay, you have to explain that.
Okay. A part of staying dangerous, what I mean by that is Jesus had the power to destroy all creation.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, I could have legions of angels here to fight on my behalf,
Mm,
but I don't need to do that. I'm here to fulfill the prophecy. He's able to bridle himself. And what happens is we teach our kids, oh, you shouldn't be that aggressive or you shouldn't be that you show some humility. No, they could still be dangerous. They just need to be able to divorce themselves from their emotions, pull themselves back in the right time. But they need that aggression for whatever they're involved in.
right.
It's one thing to be dangerous and humble and meek because you've bridled that, than to be cowardice and never face anything.
Right. It's almost like, we talk about false humility.
Yes,
And it's like when you really truly have a humble spirit, you just have it. You don't have to act like you do
correct. But again, let's not mistake Jesus' humility
for
for
weakness. Come
weakness.
on now.
So
Okay.
that's what I mean by stay dangerous. He could have destroyed everything, but he bridled himself because he was there to fulfill purpose.
I feel like that's its own podcast. Like we need to get into that. That's something that can help like parents just in their lives.
Mhm. But it's something that we have to teach our kids along the way because when you're in the heat of the battle, the first thing you want to do is to go all out, like we teach them to do. But sometimes they got to bring those emotions back because it causes them to get penalties. It causes them to cause violations. It causes them to put themselves in harm's way.
Right.
And so, a part of being meek, a part of being humble, is being able to bridle that aggression, not lack aggression, but bridle aggression.
I think it's really important to state that you can be both, dangerous, in the context that you're talking about, and also humble. In other words, those two things are not mutually exclusive. I kind of want to switch gears here. We're talking about, sort of bridling your emotions. We talked about staying humble and also, being dangerous or staying dangerous.
Mhm.
And I feel like we had a scenario happen this week with one of our kiddos where they needed encouragement. And I feel like this story is going to bring it all together.
All right. So I know where you're going with this.
Yes.
Um, you know, even in the context of being dangerous, a part of that is being able to have self talk. Part of even trying to bridle yourself is having the self talk. Hey, I got more to lose right now.
So true.
There's no reason for me to put myself in a bad situation. Hey, calm down. Let's back off. But the other part of that, where the encouragement comes in, the scriptures say David encouraged himself in the Lord when everybody around him was doubting him, when everybody around him was ready to attack him. He had to encourage himself when nobody else would.
Right.
When everything is snowballing around you, what are you saying to yourself? How are you pulling yourself out of that situation? God is already giving you purpose, but do you believe? Are you repeating those words? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm built for this. I was born for this moment. All I need to do is remember who I am.
I feel like it's probably useful and practical to have some of those scriptures on ice when you have to encourage yourself.
Yes, absolutely. That's why it was so important when you decided to read the scripture, Psalms 91, to the kids nightly till they had it memorized. So when they hit these dark places, when they hit these hard times, they can remember those scriptures. They can You say, hey, let's go over your memory scripture. So you had no knowledge of what they were going to go through one day,
No.
but God was laying a blueprint to say that when the hard times hit, just speak what I said. What did I say about you?
Right.
Forget what the coach said about you. Forget what the fans are saying about you. Forget what your teammate is saying. What did I say about
Oh,
you?
no. That's really
Yeah.
deep.
And so we really have to teach them how to speak life into themselves, speak life into ourselves.
Yes.
When the bills are due and your boss is getting on you at work and all these things are falling apart, that these things won't last always.
I won't die
I
here.
won't die here. This won't be the end for me.
Right.
And I got to encourage myself and remind myself of who I am,
Who he said I am.
who he said I am.
That wraps up today's episode of the Coach Dad podcast. If this conversation helped you, share it with a teammate, a parent, or a coach who needs it. You can find past episodes and resources at www.podpage.com/coach dad. That's dad with 3 Ds. And remember, dedication fuels you, discipline shapes you, and development carries you. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment wherever you're listening. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.